The following program is rated PG. Parental guidance is advised, as the theme or content may not be suitable for all children. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello friends, welcome back to another inspiring episode of On Location Vancouver, brought to you with the support of Tell a Story Hive. I am so excited and honored to be here with the legendary ballerina and Go ballet director, Chan Hon Goh, former principal dancer with the National Ballet of Canada, the first principal dancer of Chinese heritage, and the visionary behind Vancouver's Nutcracker. We are so excited to bring this conversation to you.
Hello.
Hello.
So nice of you to make that introduction. Thank you.
It is my pleasure. I'm sure you are very busy right now. Just a week before Nutcracker goes on stage. So tell us, what can audiences expect with the Nutcracker this year?
Well, we are just beaming with excitement because it's our 15th anniversary. When we started the production, it was always our hope and our dream that we would have a Nutcracker for community to grow up with, for kids to follow, for generations of people to enjoy. And now that we've been doing it live on stage for 15 years and through film for 2 years of the pandemic, we feel like we have created such a strong and vibrant following for the show. I mean, we have had a few proposals happen at the show. We have had, celebrations of anniversaries or birthdays. We have had, such memorable, nostalgic moments from, grandparents who take their grandchildren to their show, or, meeting dancers that don't usually dance in Vancouver backstage because they're our leading dancers in the Nutcracker. So audiences can expect a lot from the show, and it's something that we truly take pride in. From the moment that they walk into the theater, we have decorated and filled the lobby of the Queen Elizabeth Theater. So the experience really starts from the moment they set in.
Incredible. Now, when you first were with the principal dancer with the National Ballet of Canada, the first Chinese dancer. Now, you did not have anyone to look up to who looked like you performing. What was it like for you? Did that go through your mind? Was it, or you were just so focused and determined that you did not even pay attention to that?
Well, in my earlier years with the National Ballet, and I got promoted very fast, and I was so fortunate with the opportunities I was given. But finding out that I was the first principal dancer to make it to the ranks of a principal dancer was really quite a surprise to me, because in the history, at that time, it was in the history of the company's 40th anniversary that the archivist came up to me to say, you're the company's first. And I have to say, it's all about the hard work. So as I was living and breathing it, one doesn't realize the significance or the impact that this is laying the grounds for. And I was a very hard worker. I still am. It's part of who I am.
I was listening in one of the interviews you were saying, and I can relate a lot, but I was not born here. Right. And you mentioned how your father said that you have to work 10 times harder. And the work ethic and all of that, it seems like it's just ingrained inside of you. Tell me about the impact of, being born in Beijing and then moving here and seeing your parents' passion for dance, because they started
the academy.
Go Ballet.
Well, it's so true, because, dance instills a certain level of discipline, and so much of what we teach in the studio now to our young dancers is really life skills that they can use and transfer into other areas, which will help them immensely. But the work ethic, coming to Vancouver, landing here direct from Beijing at the age of 8 and not speaking a word of English. And we're talking like I had to start from ABCs. Experiencing a lot of cultural shocks and discrimination at that point in time. The one thing that I think we can count on is the validation and proof that if we work hard, we will make something of ourselves. And so that was very much, what my parents believed in and what I saw. And so in everything I do, there's that strive to be better. And so this is an incredible trait, and one that I'm fortunate that was instilled upon me at a very young age, because it was challenging. And the world was quite unforgiving and not friendly at times. And so I think always through the back of my mind, it was this impetus to say, if you're good at something, if you're the best at something, if you really are a standout at something, people will never look down on you, people will never be mean to you, people will, and that was very simplified at that point as a child, but that's how I wanted to prove myself.
Where does this love and passion for dance come from?
My grandmother told me that I'd be dancing up and down the aisles every time I was at a performance, and even at home when I hear music. And so I would be mimicking, and I loved theater as well, plays and musicals. So I feel like it was always an innate quality that I love to project. And of course the influences, and that's why I feel when people I meet say, oh, I don't understand ballet. There's nothing to understand. I mean, please, you just have to enjoy it. You just have to look at it and feel something, and be a part of it. So I always try to say, if we're doing what we do right and we're doing what we can, we will draw in the audience into our world, and they will enjoy it and forget about the everyday and forget about the other chaotic things, and be immersed in our world in the beauty of the dance for 2 hours, and we would be doing something right.
After over 20 years as a principal dancer, you transitioned from the stage to directing Go Ballet. What was the hardest part of deciding to step away from performing into leadership?
Well, I think ask any dancer, and it's always hard to call it quits from the stage, that's your identity. And what I miss most is being able to transform and be someone other than myself, and bring that to life on the stage, and to, live the music. The music is what is the source, and to live that, to personify that and make it my own, and to be different and change the nuances. That's what, nothing will ever replace that. It is really magical, and that's not an overstatement at all. There's nothing replaceable there. To transition, I think at that point in time, my son was a toddler. He was 3 years old, and I'd been dealing with a couple of injuries, a really bad Achilles tendonitis injury and a neck and shoulder injury from a car accident. And so those were challenging things. Plus, we always knew that a dancer's career is quite short in comparison. Most dancers, female dancers usually stop at around, in earlier days, early 30s. Now I'm happy to say, with added knowledge and scientific training methods, that the career has been extended into their 40s, but it's very extreme to go beyond that. I was 40 when I retired, and I had lived my dream of being able to dance all of the roles that I wanted to dance, but dealing with the injuries, and I was a young mom, and I wanted to depart from the stage at a level that I would be remembered at my height of my career, whereas I've seen decisions of dancers where they push it a little too long, and they can't keep up maybe at the optimal level. And so I knew that I had to make the transition sooner or later, and I chose sooner. And so I was fascinated and interested to go into other areas as well, like the business aspect, the entrepreneurship of the dance industry fascinated me. And I'm not sure if that came from also my survival instinct, because what will I do if I can't dance anymore? So I wanted to be also good at something else. So how else do I make a livelihood, make the best of it,
And we talked about it a bit earlier. You were mentioning your style of directing.
Yeah.
I'm curious, obviously, this is the background, and you understand as a performer so much what works, what didn't work, and what you want to bring into the new era and teach like the young generation, the new generation. How would you say your directing style has evolved? And what are, perhaps maybe some things you're choosing to do intentionally differently than the way you were taught?
For sure. Oh, that's such an important question, because as educators now, it's so important. I feel it's so important to understand and keep current. And as much as we're teaching, we're also learning. So that never stops, and I feel there's a fascination to that. And I think that speaks to the success of how we run our programs, but that we're continuously learning and evolving our methods. It's very important. So from everything, the way the expectations of parents to the learning abilities of how absorption rates are from the students, because they are influenced now by technology, by the voices around them, by, the access to a lot of information. So I think as educators now, we have to be so in tune. We have to not be, only, in our, secluded in our studio, and it has no relationship to what's going on in the rest of the world. Contrary to that, I think to get the best learning outcome from our dancers, our students, is to understand how are they being educated in school? How are some of the things that they're being influenced online? What is the parenting method or ways? And then being able really at the end of the day to get through to them in the best way possible.
Now, I want to talk about you being an author.
Okay.
That is really remarkable. Obviously, you've had this incredible career that's taken you around the world. What inspired you to write this book?
Well,
Beyond the Dance.
Yes, Beyond the Dance, and now it's in digital format. So we had 2 wonderful runs of it with Random House, and now they've put it to people digitally, which is very accessible. I feel like at that point in my career, you know, I had a lot of things to share, and I wasn't sure how to share it. And it was actually my father who said, you should write a book. And I thought, oh, that's so far reaching. I can't write a book. But the more I thought about it, I knew I had a lot of material. And so, again, through the support of the ballet and people connecting people, I was able to get published through Random House.
Incredible.
And this book, though, it was really meant for younger readers, so that they would understand, you know, growing up from, you know, the eyes of an immigrant girl who had a passion and love for dance and pursuing it, and at every stage overcoming some challenges, overcoming, you know, some concerns, and that was, you know, all right, and it's part of life, and where did it get me? And really to boost confidence and perseverance, to help young people, you know, say that, you know, do it, you know, pursue your dreams. And so that was a real wonderful project for me, and it also gave me, through this exercise, built my own confidence in knowing that, yes, this is a good story to share, and if it can touch people and mean something to other people, then it's a great thing to open up and share.
I'm curious, in your career, would you receive mail or emails from fans or parents who have been following your career to get your advice or your input? Because I can only imagine, because you have paved a path for many here, especially in Canada.
You know, and those are the touching moments. I mean, it's so unexpected, Zara, and you know, there've been so many of those touching moments that I still, like, you know, I think back to. I actually, when you ask me that, this comes to mind. It was only a couple of years ago when, you know, I had retired already for 15 years from the stage, and they contacted the Academy, and it was an elderly woman who didn't know how to find me, and they contacted the Academy, and then she wrote me a beautiful message. And she had always taken up painting as a hobby, and she'd always come to see me perform, and she had painted this painting of me in the role of the Swan Queen, and she had taken a picture of it and she sent it attached to this email, and she said, you know, I'm getting on in my years and I'm so proud of this painting. And she said, you inspired me to, you know, the dance form is difficult to paint, but I worked on it and I worked on it. And she said, I would love you to have this painting. And so, you know, it's the fact that we found this connection without even knowing one another, and that it had given her something in her life. And that's I really feel like that's the magic of ballet and the arts, is that it touches on the basis of human emotions, and to be able to connect on that level. And so that was incredibly moving for me. But also, when I meet parents, when I was dancing and I'd come out of stage door and there'd be young girls or boys, who've come to the show and, parents who say, it's so important for her to see you up there because now you make it seem like it's possible to pursue, and then it dawned on me that it's important to be a role model and to have role models, and that one shouldn't take it lightly, and how honored it was to be in that position, to be able to do something like that, like you said, to potentially pave the way. And so yes, they are definitely moments that have sustained me through the tough times too.
What does Vancouver mean to you now, not just as your home, but as a dance city?
Oh gosh, I always say to everybody that comes to Vancouver, it's one of the most beautiful cities in the world. And this is true. I've lived in other places, I've danced in other places. Where it ties into dance is where my work comes in, I'm really hoping that we can grow the amount of dance in this city and the amount of following for dance in this city. We need more venues, I feel we need more promotion of dance. We need to build the awareness and build it into the lives of people, that it's not just a once a year occurrence, that it is something that we do on a regular basis, and that we're cultivating this in our young people as well. So, we do a lot of outreach in schools. We try our best to continue to build that in this beautiful city. I think we've got great potential, and we need more people to continue to work on that.
And we're so grateful you exist, and Go Ballet is here, and the fact that you also have adult lessons for intro ballet. I will certainly have to check that out. Incredible. Well, thank you so much for your time, Chan. I'm so honored to sit here with you. And for all of you watching, we're heading into the holidays. What are your hopes audiences will experience and take away from the Nutcracker this year that is taking place from the 18th of December till the 21st at Queen Elizabeth?
Oh gosh, I'm so hoping that when audiences come to the Nutcracker, they will come into a world immersed with goodness, togetherness, and that they get to build special memories. I think in our somewhat chaotic and uncertain world that we live in, it's really important to find time and commonalities and to be together, to still believe in all the goodness. And I feel like this is what the ballet does, is that it's always going to be the Nutcracker prince who wins over the evil Mouse King. And isn't that wonderful when you can depend on something?
Yeah, I love that. Well, I'm so excited to watch it, and it's truly an honor to sit down here with you and to talk about your journey and to learn from you. We're so grateful you were able to join us today.
It's been a real pleasure. Thank you, Zara.
My pleasure. Thank you all for watching On Location Vancouver. I'm your host, Zara Durrani. The show is brought to you with the generous support of TELUS Story Hive. And if you would be interested in being on our show, check the QR code, scan it, and you can get in touch with us, and perhaps you could be joining us here on Location Vancouver. Until next time, I'll see you soon.